We're on listen only mode.
Hey everyone, this is Dwayne and Bob with RapidScale. We're starting the broadcast a little bit early here, so we'll give everybody a few minutes to get logged in. So we're going to go on mute.
Is he going to show his face?
RapidScale folks, if you could put your phones on mute as well. Again, everybody that just joined, we'll get started here in about 1 minute. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dwayne Barnes and Bob Buchanan here at RapidScale. We're going to go ahead and get started. Just one quick note of housekeeping. We are running live video here, and within the GoToMeeting on your side, you can swap the background with the video if you want to enlarge that so you can see us on screen and whiteboarding here. So with that, I'll kick it over to Bob, and we'll get going.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining. This is the RapidScale monthly sales webinar. We're throwing out the PowerPoint, and I'm inviting a guest, as Dwayne just mentioned, SVP of Technologies joining me today. So no PowerPoint, a little bit more of a win at the whiteboard session. Thought that would be somewhat powerful. We're going to focus a little bit on how our portfolio is maturing, but just as an intro, right? Probably be 20 to 30 minutes in length as usual, won't go any longer. If you have any questions, hit those via chat, and at the end we'll ask if there was any questions, we'll answer anything you had. You can also email me directly at bob.buchanan@rapidscale.net, dwayne.barnes@rapidscale.net, and we're also running a promo right now. So we've been getting great traction with these sessions. We're averaging anywhere from 80 to 100 partners on the call, which is really awesome. But we've just announced that, hey, if you register and actually join the call and bring us a qualified opportunity through Q2, we'll give you a $50 gift card. Just a little something to say thanks, we appreciate it, and let's go out there and win together. So let's jump into it, right? So again, the SD-WAN, and before I just jump into RapidScale's positioning on SD-WAN and where the market's kind of taking us, and Dwayne will walk you through a customer example. Let me take a little bit of a step back. If you're familiar with RapidScale, this might be a little bit of a recap, if you will, and I apologize for that. If you're new, I think this will help set the stage for kind of who we are, where we're headed, right? So I look at the space around cloud, managed hosting, data centers, what does all this mean, and really I want to provide clarity as to who we are, right? How are we different? I'll start that with who is our target customer. And I think about the underserved market. I've said that a few times. I've blogged about it. I talk about it a lot. And I think about that customer that's in the mid-market and down, 25 to maybe 4,000 employees. Size is important, but you know what? It's not as critical as limited IT resources. These are typically brick and mortar type businesses. Think law firms, manufacturing companies, healthcare companies. They're really looking to consume IT differently, and that's really our target market, right? And if you compare that, or you take that fact, and you say that's where our customers lie, and then you think about our portfolio, right? What are we known for? Well, sure, we're in the infrastructure as a service space. We're in the disaster recovery as a service space. But I think what we're most widely known for today is desktop as a service, right? People think desktop as a service. They often think rapid scale. They think rapid scale powered by Citrix, us as a Citrix CSP. As you look at that portfolio and it continues to grow with things like security and email and management, and then you start to look at the customer needs and where they've driven us, we do a lot of 24/7 NOC support globally, right? So we're in 6 data centers around the globe in multiple time zones, and we're really good at handling level 2 and level 3 NOC trouble tickets and customer support. So that's engineer to engineer, admin to admin. But what really makes us different is the ability to provide true help desk type support, level 1 support, right? So rudimentary type, things that I would call rudimentary type tickets by end users that are almost MSP-like, right? That's the type of thing you would rely on an MSP, but an MSP doesn't do that 24/7. And then another big differentiator, I think, guys, is we love migrations. I think you're going to see a lot of providers in the cloud space say we love migrations, right? We want to get our hands dirty. For every 10 deals that we do, 7, 8 of those deals, we're actually end-to-end project manage the A to Z, lift and shift from the customer prem or their current provider onto the rapid scale platform. So what I'm trying to get at is, hey, think rapid scale, know our customer, where's that opportunity? It's that brick and mortar business, limited IT resources, understand really where we win. But in all of that, you start to think, how do we get stretched? These customers start saying, man, Citrix is great, and I've got maybe a legacy network to extend my WAN, but you know what? What's this SD-WAN type thing, and how do I leverage that? And how does that help me with application performance and some of the other advantages? Can you educate me? And sure, and I think we started teaming with maybe some providers in an ad hoc manner and got to the point where we extend our own portfolio to be able to offer those services natively. So let's talk a little bit about the market opportunity, Dwayne. IDC is reporting that by the year 2021, the SD-WAN market is going to grow 70% CAGR, so compound annual growth rate, right? So that's going to be an addressable market over $8 billion by 2021. Opportunities there to take on more customer share and put more dollars in our pockets, put more dollars in your pockets, and really service the customer. That being said, Dwayne, for those of us out there that really are new to SD-WAN, give us just an introduction. What is this technology?
Yeah, so much like cloud, or the terminology cloud, SD-WAN is starting to get thrown around as more of an all-encompassing type technology acronym, so to speak. Most of the technology inside of today's SD-WAN solutions is not really anything new. It's just being packaged and bundled and marketed slightly differently. So the one thing I would say is anybody that's cautious about, this as being a bleeding edge solution, like I said, most of this technology has been around for a decade or longer. And I will add on to Bob's IDC quote with, Gartner is predicting that 30% of all enterprises by the end of next year, which isn't that far away, will have some type of SD-WAN solution in all of their branch locations. That's a big number. That's essentially how you get to that $8 billion by 2021. I think the other hidden secret there is a bit of the MPLS and traditional wireline network access, falling off, to be completely honest. I haven't seen any numbers that I would feel as being accurate yet on that topic, but certainly the carriers are feeling the pain of all of those disconnects. So, again, the technology is essentially used to provide secure, reliable access from a branch location to either an HQ or a data center or wherever the data that branch needs to get access to in the most redundant fashion, with providing the ability to prioritize traffic like voice, video, and for perhaps ERP or CRM data,
Sure.
or something like that.
Sure. When I think of SD-WAN and talk to our friends out in the field, who's doing this, right? It's traditional telco type providers. It's what I call maybe technology companies. I mean, we can get into a little bit of that.
Yep.
And then there's, I think, what I would call more of the early stage kind of the startup type company that's really new to the market, trying to capitalize on it in growth mode. And they all kind of have a little bit of a different story. I think you see hardware type of solutions, software-based solutions, advantages, disadvantages. What I wanted to really ask you, Dwayne, is we decided to partner with Citrix. Can you tap into a little bit of the nature of that relationship and why we chose them?
Yeah, great question. We get this question a lot, and I think those of you that know RapidScale, as Bob mentioned, probably know us as a Citrix shop, so you'd probably say, well, that's pretty obvious that you would choose them. Well, we didn't go about it that way, to be completely honest. We had a couple of existing customers where partners had come in and sold those customers off-the-shelf SD-WAN solutions, right? Pure play SD-WAN. And we actually, while it may have improved their network reliability when they sold it to them, it actually degraded their performance back to our data centers, because those providers were heading the traffic halfway across the country from where all the applications and desktops and servers were at in our data center. And basically, after the second time that happened, we said, you know what, we really need to have an answer. That's, as opposed to a recommendation, we need to have an answer to that problem. So we went out, we looked at all the top OEMs. We did a bunch of research with IDC, Forrester, Gartner, and just tried to find out, hey, what's the landscape? We all had sort of our gut feelings about who's the best at it, but ultimately, I don't like getting in the religious war of Cisco versus Fortinet, right? So we really did a bake-off. We looked at the Solar Peaks of the world, Cisco, Bellow Cloud, all of the ones that you guys are probably familiar with. What we didn't want to do, I'll start by saying that I did not want to partner with any carrier. I wanted a carrier agnostic solution that worked on anybody's network in anybody's cloud, also with a hardware-based version that I could deploy on customer premise. And that really narrowed the field down super quick. The next criteria, I didn't want to partner with a startup. And you might say, well, why not? Because most likely they have more forward-looking advanced technology, or perhaps they're a lower price point. Ultimately, I don't want to have to change forces a year from now or 2 years from now. So then that narrowed the field pretty tightly to Cisco, Silver Peak, Citrix, and a couple others like Fortinet and some other up-and-coming folks. After the bake-off, it really boiled down to Citrix was the best solution, and I don't say that lightly, because we really did put a lot of energy and time into scorecarding these boxes, and some of it comes down to our current partnership. Obviously, some of it comes down to the way we can procure it, so I can actually rent the hardware from or back out to my customer and then upgrade at a licensing level. I don't have to forklift that hardware. And then I've written a bunch of key differentiators on the whiteboard, which we'll get into here in a minute. But ultimately, that's how we derived, at the final solution of using Citrix NetScaler SD-WAN solutions.
Awesome. So we kind of went through a little bit of the RapidScale value prop. We talked a little bit about the market opportunity, right? Dived into why Citrix. Let's talk a little bit about real life application here. We launched this offering, expanded our portfolio in 2017. Pipeline's growing, got several really good customers, some of them are quite sizable. One that comes to mind that I really like to talk about, because I think it really fits when you think about that customer profile criteria and those characteristics that I kind of ask our partners to be thinking of. manufacturing company really based out of the Northeast, an organization that has limited IT resources, right? Less than 5 in this case, I believe that's correct. And we got into this opportunity, Dwayne, and I'll set the stage here around the partner relationship. We got this opportunity through the channel, very traditional, what I'd call a very traditional agent-based model, providing, wireline type services and data, and not what I would classify by any means as a cloud expert, but really good partner relationship, customer relationship, and got us introduced because they did the critical thing I think that you need to do in this business is know what a deal looks like, and I think that's what we're always focused on, helping our partners understand what do deals look like that RapidScale can capitalize on. So I admit it, 21 locations, 40 plus servers, really nice deal that did not include SD-WAN, and I guess I admit it that you were tied to this deal more closely and intimately than I was from the get-go. So I gave kind of the top level details there. Dive in a little bit and tell us a little bit more about how this came about, your involvement, and kind of how we got the deal initially, how it was identified and how we won it, and then we'll back into SD-WAN and why that was so valuable part of the overall solution.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite actual wins for a lot of reasons, but ultimately, the particular agent that was involved had brought us and Rackspace into the deal. Once it got to my level, I certainly flew up, met with the partner, and asked them, why, what's the deal look like? What's the customer looking for? And as he started to go into the details, I quickly realized, well, there's not a lot of competition in the channel for what this customer needed. They needed, 24/7 support. They needed Citrix experts. They had Citrix deployed in an IBM data center managed by a third-party MSP. They were CapExing their licensing. They had an enterprise agreement with Microsoft that was coming up for renewal. And they were having just all sorts of issues, and they never knew who to call. They had a local network guy that was helping them with their branch office and HQ, wiring and wireless access points and switching and routing type stuff. So all told, they had about 5 vendors involved, and what ended up us being able to take over the entire environment. And that was about a 32-day sales cycle as well. So that's not normal, but that original deal was inked at about $54,000 a month, which was obviously a good sized deal, and we were all high-fiving after that. What we quickly realized, though, is this customer just was hungry for consulting, and between RapidScale and our wonderful partner up in the Northeast, we started diving in further to their network. And they were having, of course, in manufacturing, you tend not to be right in the heart of a city, right? So you have, many of their branch locations were out in the middle of nowhere, and that was causing problems ultimately. And you can only deal with that so many ways, right? Upgrading the bandwidth, adding in more bandwidth, additional links. But ultimately, they were on a traditional MPLS network that had no redundancy, single link, single router, at all the branches coming back to a headquarters location. And, the customer rightly asked us, well, how do I make this better? And ultimately, they were our first, SD-WAN customer. They knew that. We were very upfront with them. Hey, we've got a product. We're using it internally, but we'd really like to, put this out in the wild and put it through its paces. So ultimately, we signed another $8,000 upgrade or so to operate all of their network. And the beautiful thing about SD-WAN in general, and specifically the Citrix product, is I initially deployed the boxes in what's called inline mode, right? So there was no outage. I just got them in the network, got us our engineers remote access to them, and ultimately gave the customer the ability when to say, hey, we're cutting over to this particular device. I've written some key differentiators up here, I believe, based on testing. They're probably difficult to read, so I'm going to read through some of them for you guys as it pertains to this deal, because it really helped the customer buy off on the solution. So one of the first things up here is per packet duplication. So it's not a session-based solution. So a whole bunch of the SD-WAN services out there are session-based, meaning you have, let's say you have 2 links, you start a phone call and it goes over link 1, then you open a web browser, it goes over link 2, and it's just back and forth, right? So it's really trying to make use of the session. The big problem is let's say link 1 goes down while you're on that phone call. Because it's session-based, there's actually a very long pause while it fails over to the secondary, and it's typically in seconds, not milliseconds. And so while you may not drop the call, you're going to have 2-3 seconds of dead air before it moves that session over to the other link. With Citrix, because I'm sending the voice packets across all available links, if there's more than 2, it's basically taking the fastest path to the other end, and if one of those links dies, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be milliseconds, which is not distinguishable by the human ear, of failover. So that's a big key. Native dynamic routing support, so BGP and OSPF. What does that mean? Well, aside from the technology, what it means is I don't need a carrier-managed router as long as it's an Ethernet handoff from the carrier, so I can eliminate a device at the branch. Because it also supports stateful firewalling, I can also eliminate the firewall at the branch. So now it's looking really appetizing to the average customer, right? I have now 1 device at the branch that I have to worry about, as opposed to a firewall and potentially a carrier-managed router and an SD-WAN appliance. A couple other things. Dual-ended QoS is automatic, and so what that means is, let's say the far end is multiple branches are consuming too much bandwidth coming back to the head end, right? And by the way, the head end can be deployed anywhere. And in our situation, it's all deployed in our data center, but we can deploy it in a customer data center, Amazon, or Azure, wherever. But what most other SD-WAN solutions don't account for is they're not calculating the amount of traffic all the branches are using if they start flooding the HQ or the data center location. So the NetScaler actually does that and can actually control QoS branch by branch to free up traffic back at the head end. Asymmetry is also supported, which means if I'm sending packets out link 1 and somebody tries to start sending a large file which consumes all the upload out that link, I can actually download from link 1 and move my upload dynamically out link 2 for the other user, right? So most of the appliances out there are symmetrical routing only and don't support any asymmetry. And then the last thing is auto path bonding. Let's say you start a download and it's predominantly using link 1, but maybe the far end has unlimited bandwidth, right? It can actually automatically scale in link 2, 3, 4, and so on, and bond those together, so it improves your download speeds, and it'll fail that back down to the single one once completed. And then the final thing that I think is really cool, right? The physical appliances actually have a mechanical switch inside the box, so if it loses power, it'll actually fail to wire, meaning whatever ISP connection is plugged into that device, it can just send it directly to that cable modem or DIA connection and bridge that to the far end. So ultimately, the customer doesn't go down in a power failure situation. So you add all those things together, really cool solution, really compelling for this particular customer, and it gives them time to migrate off their MPLS, which I think is key, right?
Absolutely. So great overview on the key differentiators. Why don't you, if you don't mind, walk us through a little bit of the logical diagram here and give us an overview of what's going on.
So I tried to pre-draw some of this basically in the essence of time here. But if you look up here, you have customer site 1, customer site 2, and that obviously can scale to 50, 100, 500, wherever you need to go with it. So you have a single SD-WAN box. You've got one link going back to their MPLS network, right, as I mentioned. So again, Ethernet handoff, you don't even need the carrier managed router. I can talk native BGP right there at the endpoint. The link 2 goes to their internet provider, right, or DIA connection, cable, DSL, cradle point, 4G LTE, whatever you've got. Again, as long as it's Ethernet handoff, and I can obviously scale that to 4 or 8 connections depending on the appliance that we deploy. Same thing for site 2. So in this case, this comes back to, there's a pair of redundant, what Citrix calls master control nodes, or you would be more familiar with the terminology head-ends, right? So the head-ends are here. If the customer so deemed, by the way, I can actually split those head-ends up and do one in a different data center and have a geographically dispersed head-end, which again, 90+% of the other guys out there from an SD-WAN perspective, the OEMs and the carriers can't support geographically distributed head-ends with automatic failover. So no difference here. So the RapidScale Cloud, these are virtual edition appliances on our side. We're taking use of our, ISP bandwidth, right? So just think of this cloud here as the internet. And then this particular customer does have an MPLS connection into our data center, although they did do a short-term contract on that. The main reason is, it took a while to get broadband at all of those locations. They're in the midst of converting their MPLS connections to straight internet DIA connections. And they're bidding that out to multiple carriers to see who can, get them the most reliable service. But all said and done, the SD-WAN solution, if you add up all of their MPLS connectivity, was a little bit over $30,000 a month they were spending on MPLS, and they're spending less than 10, including internet access with us and our SD-WAN solution. So it's, saving them, 200% or so savings on their network costs alone. Now that wasn't the reason we went down this path. To be completely honest, we went down the path to essentially improve the redundancy, because again, in this customer case, all of their desktops, right, are sitting in our data center. All their application servers, all of their mail, their Skype, their SharePoint, their their main big database that does all of their billing. Also, all of their retail locations are their cash registers, quote unquote, are actually hooked up as virtual desktops back to our store, or back to our data center. So it's very important that they have more than one path back to the data center, and that was the reason we went down the SD-WAN path originally. But obviously, cost savings, dismantling that MPLS network over time is going to be very, very appealing to any customer.
That's great, Dwayne. A couple questions. Is it fair? I'm sure our partners are probably thinking, are we then announcing that we're going to be attacking the SD-WAN market and that we're going to be a direct competitor to some of these folks that we kind of targeted?
Obviously, a great question. I think no, right? We're not going to go out there and say, hey, we're competing head-to-head with VeloCloud or BigLeaf or any of these other guys that are pure play SD-WAN providers.
Sure.
I think for us, we look at it as obviously a value-add service. Obviously, there's a lot of benefits because it's a Citrix product. If the customer has Citrix, desktops with us, there's some native inherent features and functionality to improve the desktop performance.
Exactly.
Does RapidScale? I always look at a deal. Do I add value, right? If I'm just a commodity with 10 other guys, then no. The answer is no. I don't add value. More than likely, I'm not going to be cheaper either. But for us, it obviously makes sense to add this on to a customer that's already considering moving their desktop servers, DR, whatever it might be to us.
Sure. And as these customers I mentioned on the outset, the marketplace continues to look at RapidScale to provide a true, fully outsourced solution, right? If we don't do 100% of everything, we can probably get close to 90. But when you think about the addressable market, mid-market and down, if we're managing SD-WAN and we've got access to that network and there's SD-WAN appliances at the customer site, what advantages does that give us when the customer says, can you do more inside my four walls?
Yeah, great question. Sort of a two-part answer. So one of the things we struggle with the over-the-top SD-WAN guys is I can't do trace routes anymore to troubleshoot latency back to the customer endpoint. So it becomes very difficult to find out, well, if they're having performance issues at a branch somewhere, is it the network? Because they can't see the network anymore. It's completely encapsulated. So for us, the advantage is obviously we're managing the SD-WAN solution and it's coming to our data center. We have all the troubleshooting features and functionality built right into the SD-WAN center portal that the customer would have access to. So I think that's absolutely key to one of the reasons why it makes sense for us to deliver the SD-WAN solution. Secondarily, how does that help us get in to inside the four walls of the customer? And I think traditionally speaking, most of our competitors that are sort of upmarket, right? The bigger guys that own all their data centers
Sure.
and whatnot, I've heard them time and time again say they don't want to touch anything outside the four walls of their data center because they can't be successful. And I think we're completely opposite stance,
Absolutely.
right? I very much want to own as much inside that customer location as I can because it actually sets us up for success.
Sure.
So we're not finger pointing that, hey, this is an old switch, we don't manage it, or this is a wireless access point and you bought it off eBay. So
And this makes it easier.
And this just makes it easier because it gives us native remote access into that environment.
Very good. So 21 locations in this particular customer, you mentioned that to get the initial deployment, the sales cycle was 30 plus days, but this was really a pull-through opportunity for SD-WAN, which is beautiful, right? Last question that I have, and I'd love to have our partners understand the answer, is we get an order signed by the customer. They're already a client of ours. We got 21 locations to deploy. Obviously, we've got to get some of these compliances were physical versus virtual. What did that setup look like, and what was the time to market and the level of complexity involved there?
Yeah, so I think this sort of speaks to our in-life customer account management, right? So I have a dedicated project manager to this client, and we flew a team, an engineer, a support person, and project manager up to this customer site to sit down and plan the implementation with them. And I think those of you that have done deals with us know that we're not shy of getting on an airplane and talking to a customer in person. So we flew up there, we sat down and said, hey, let's look at your circuit orders. We were working with the partner on when those circuit orders were going to get dropped. We just put a basic spreadsheet together and said, here's the first 5 locations we're going to cut, the next 5, the next 5, the next 5. And over about a 3-month period of time, and most of that lead time is the circuit install, we had the entire network cut over to SD-WAN front-ended solution, right? Using secondary broadband connection and then primary PLS. And once you do the first one, it's pretty easy, right? It's clicking buttons and just deploying the packages out. The nice thing about the NetScaler solution is it does have a phone home feature, or so to speak, right, where I can do deployments without having the hardware doesn't have to come to RapidScale first. As long as they can plug it into some connection to the internet, right? So it comes down to having at least one halfway talented IT person on staff, right? Which is customer actually.
Or a super admin.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as it gets to the internet, it pops up in our portal. We drag it over to this customer. We push the config to it. And, the cutover at that point is just moving the MPLS Ethernet connection out of their current, switch into the SD-WAN box, and, off they go.
Awesome job. Summer, I think you might be still out there. Those are some of the key questions that we had on this end. Did any more come through chat?
We actually just got one. Will you also procure the circuits?
Great question. We don't today, and the main reason is most of our partners do that for our customers as their value add. So, that's one of those things where I don't think RapidScale adds a ton of value there, but certainly a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're just about out of time. Let me kind of wrap this up by saying this. RapidScale is really thought of, again, I said it, desktop as a service, complemented by infrastructure as a service, disaster recovery as a service, and that's complemented by, as we talked about, security and mail and files and application support, managed help desk. But then you bring in and expand our portfolio in SD-WAN. Again, if you think about all the other options that are out there and what's available in the addressable market for cloud support, we really think we've got a unique message. We really think that we've got a great value proposition that separates us. We're really striving to be easy to do business with, and that's something we focus on every single day. We're looking to execute, and we're looking to drive great deals and provide great solutions for your customers, and looking forward to seeing you in the field. So until next time, hope this was helpful. We'll let you get back to your day, and good selling. Thanks, Dwayne.
Thank you.
Nice.